Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. What does it mean to walk with the Spirit? To connect and practice yoga in a way that can steady us, both within this life, but also prepare us for death. Today, November 11th, in Canada, it's Remembrance Day. Russell and I are joined by Faith Scimecca, who is a level 2 Authorized Ashtanga Yoga teacher, the founder and main teacher of Woodley Park Yoga in Washington, D.C., and has been a close friend and devoted student of this practice for over 20 years. Studying extensively in Mysore, we've shared many trips together, practicing both under the guidance of Shri Sharath Jois as well as Sharath Jois. She has one of the longest running Mysore programs in the U.S. and also has answered another profound calling. She studied 4 years and now works as a hospital chaplain, specializing in palliative and end-of-life care. This conversation feels especially tender and timing as we are speaking on the anniversary of Sharath Jois's passing. This is a guru, a teacher who shaped so many of our lives, and we want to honor him in this conversation and also honor any of the other ancestors, loved ones, who have crossed over to the other side, who have gone before us. Today, you're going to hear not only Faith's personal story and journey through the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, but she was also there the day that Sharath Jois passed in Charlottesville. And so we're covering some ground that is the intersection of our Ashtanga Yoga community, as well as loss and grief, and also hope and deep spiritual connection. What does it mean to sit with the dying, to hold space for their loved ones, or for those left behind, left to grieve? And also, how can we create powerful, energetic boundaries as sensitive, empathetic souls? We're going to hear how Faith has learned to do this in her own life and how her years of practice gave her the strength and the presence to be that powerful presence of love in situations where it's truly needed and might be difficult or uncomfortable for other people to hold that space. We speak a little bit about life after death, the presence of spirits, and how this practice can be an anchor for all of us navigating the mystery of existence. So I hope that you find this episode to be an invitation to remember, to reflect, and to open your heart to the unseen realms that are actually always with us. Let's jump right in. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm here with Russell Case.
Good morning, everyone. Or it's evening. Or I don't really know when you're listening. So.
And our beautiful guest, Faith.
Our old friend.
Yes, old friend, beautiful guest. Faith, how do you pronounce your last name?
Scimecca.
It is just like that, Scimecca. I'm realizing, like, I know this faith going on 20 years, in white, this hairstyle, this beautiful complexion. And I have never asked the question how you became Italian, why you wear white, why your complexion is so clear. I have a whole bunch of questions for you that I've never stopped at the coconut stand, or, who was the guy that was the coconut stand guy?
There were so many,
No,
but Guru, I think his
no,
name was.
before the guy out in front of the shala.
Oh, Beck.
Beck. Like I never stopped you at Beck's and said, why is your complexion so clear? Like, I've never thought to ask these questions. I know that I'd also like to know, like, I know that you had like Harmony has a autoimmune disorder. I think you had something like that happen. I never asked you about that. I feel full of shame.
Yeah, I think the autoimmune disorder is probably subject for another podcast, but I'm healthy now. I have, I do credit Ashtanga and probably changing my diet to me being healthy now. Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, let's go to the beginning then. What gave you the idea, and where were you in time with the first time you heard the word Ashtanga and you thought, that's for me?
So I started doing Ashtanga classes when I was in college, and I didn't know what it was the first time I took a class, and I loved it. And I went up to the teacher afterwards and I asked her about it, and she said, well, this is Ashtanga. I teach, here at the university once a week, but I was at Miami of Ohio, and it's in Oxford, Ohio, about 45 minutes outside of Cincinnati. But she said, I go to Cincinnati once a week and practice at Ashtanga studio there. Do you want to come with me? And so I went with her, and we would go every week together. I would take her class, and then we would just practice together, because I worked at the rec center. I was teaching aerobics there, and that's how it all started. And I did that for about a year before I graduated.
Okay,
Wow.
so there's so much to unpack there. So, okay, are you from Ohio? You sound like you're from out east.
No, I'm from suburbs of Washington, D.C., but I went to school in Miami of Ohio.
And why'd you go there?
I was a figure skater, so they had a really good figure skating team. They were NCAA champions 2 of the years that I went to school there.
Wow.
Well, that means that you're an NCAA champion.
Yes, my team, yes.
Twice over. You're an NCAA champion in figure skating.
Yes.
You seem hesitant to claim that.
I don't know. It's a different life. It seems like a long time ago now.
Okay, so you're in Ohio.
What year was this that you were first learning Ashtanga Yoga?
2001 was the year I graduated. Okay. Yeah, so it was my last year. I didn't start until my last year of school.
Okay, so you're like 4 years younger than me then. Okay, so I read a book on figure skating, like a graphic novel that I can go pull out of the closet, but that is such an intense life, and you start from like the age of like 3 or 4, and to become like an NCAA champion, like you had to have started at that age. Like that had to have been your entire childhood.
Well, like 7.
Yeah, I started a little older. I think I was 7 or 8 when I started.
You have to be able to walk to figure skate.
I don't think that's
like
true.
Walk well.
I don't think that's true. I've never heard that.
They do start them young. There were people who started younger than me, and I always kind of wished I missed those, few years before I was 8.
Formative years, yeah.
Those years between 5 and 7.
Yeah. So wow. So you were one. Harmony was a kid like that. Started ballet like that. Like that's her life, and she stopped because it almost killed her. But there's that kid in school who like that's their whole life, and you barely see them in school because that's so much their life. So that was you. Like your entire elementary school, junior high. You were like 5 hours on the ice every day.
Yeah, not 5 hours, but I always woke up early. So the Mysore was nothing new for me because we always practiced before school started. So I was getting up at 6 a.m.
Yeah. So like grabbing your skate behind your head, that kind of, and standing on one foot. So like when you get into the Ashtanga room, like all that stuff's accessible.
I mean, primary series was very accessible to me. Second series was accessible until I got to the leg behind the head stuff.
Of course, because you're a jumper on ice.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
where I had to struggle for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. I understand you because I don't know if people know this about me, but I'm Caucasian, but I could jam a basketball. If I could get it in my hand, I could jam it. So, like, if you can imagine a 5'8" white person jamming a basketball, how tight his ass had to be to do that. Getting my foot behind my head was impossible.
Because you're a jumper.
I mean, that's what I was. That's what I just said.
I was just translating for the audience.
Well, Faith's right here.
I know. But everyone got caught up thinking about your tight ass.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, but Faith's bottom must have been very similar.
Let's just leave that alone.
Okay. So you're in Ohio. I know a studio in Cincinnati. I don't know if it's the same one.
Yeah, what studio was that?
Called It's Yoga, or the Yoga Garage, I think. And I think it still exists, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It was Larry Schultz students.
Yeah.
So it wasn't completely traditional, but I learned primary series there.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so
when did you go to Mysore? How did you...
Well, wait, there's a lot still here to dig in.
I want to know about Mysore.
Yeah, but I want to know about Mysore too. But like, how do you go from being like an almost like an Olympic level figure skater to the Faith Scimecca that we know, wearing white with the great complexion and like full into Ashtanga Yoga? How does that transition happen?
So it was, I stayed an extra year in school and did a master's degree. And then I wasn't skating that year. And that's when I got into yoga. It just was very natural because I was used to practicing every day. And so it was something I could do every day. And it sort of replaced figure skating for me.
Right.
And then,
what was your degree in?
Accounting. I was a CPA.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's going to come in handy as a sole proprietor of a business.
Yes.
You've lived so many lives.
Oh my goodness. And you got your master's in that.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so you're practicing Ashtanga early in the morning, getting your master's in accounting.
Yes. And I saw at the studio a flyer with Sharath Jois's picture on it, and it said, International Yoga Master coming to New York City for 2 weeks. And I remember asking someone, I said, who is this? And they said, oh, that's the man that, started all of this Ashtanga yoga. He's going to be in New York. And it was, I think in May it was September. Yeah. Cause it was September, and it was, after I graduated, and I said, I want to go to that. And I had a friend whose grandma lived in New York and said I could stay with her because she did yoga. I hadn't met this grandma, but she loved that I wanted to go for yoga, and she let me stay with her. And so I did a week with Sharath Jois, and Saraswati and Sharath were there with him too.
Yeah.
And, that was the first time that I practiced with all of them. And then after that meeting, there was just no doubt in my mind that I wanted to go to Mysore. And I just started to kind of arrange everything so that I could go to Mysore.
This is like 2003, 2002?
It was 2001 in New York, but it took me, I think...
You went to that one. You went to the 9/11 one.
Yes.
And you went to the one where like they did the whole thing about the you were there when the buildings fell down.
I was not. So I left the week before. So I was there the first week.
Oh, man.
And I think the buildings fell on maybe a Monday or Tuesday. And I got out of there right before.
Wow. I was like across the street from you somewhere.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so then after you did that week, did you arrange things? Now, I think I was actually homeless at that time in New York City. I was living out of a closet in my university. I'd pull out the bedding at night and hide and sleep. How did you arrange? I found it really difficult to go to Mysore. I paid for it by being homeless, but how did you arrange things to like just shift and like go to Mysore? Like, how does someone do that?
Well, I was a tax accountant, so I was making money. That wasn't an issue. And after April 15th, they are happy to let you go on vacation. And
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah. And
Did you like?
I took, I think, 2 months. So I went May. Back then, the shala was open in May. So I went May and June, I think, was my
Right.
first trip.
And that was the Lakshmi Puram shala.
No,
No, it was Gokulam.
the very first,
Oh,
when
first
the
year.
Gokulam shala opened. I think you were there my first trip, Russell.
Yeah, 2003.
Yeah, it was
That was my first trip too.
the very first time it opened.
Yeah, and it was like
2003.
Okay, yeah.
It was like if you went in May, like we arrived at the same time.
Yeah.
We had our first month together.
I think I remember meeting you at Randy's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, because Randy became like my like an elder that I could rely on for like basic needs.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of those.
I want to find out about the white though. Tell us about wearing white.
Were you wearing white when we first met?
I guess I was. It's not a conscious decision. I just wear a lot of white, but I wear other colors too. I just happen to be, and I almost wore green today for this podcast, and then I was like, no, I'm going to wear white.
And that's like every day you wake up. It's I think I'm going to wear orange today, and then I'm going to wear white.
Yeah, it was actually when we were in Charlottesville after Sharath passed. They had a memorial service for him, and they said, everyone needs to wear white, and it was a whole thing where everybody had to go shopping, and I was just like, I've got plenty in my suitcase, so I'm going to be okay.
Can I ask you? This is maybe too. I don't know if this is too personal a question, but I think I remember really enjoying your company. I found you really friendly and nice, and I don't think I like hung out at your house with you. I think I probably just saw you at Auntie's or saw you at different places to eat, and I wonder, how did you do making friends in that environment? Do you think people saw you wearing white and thought maybe you had taken like a vow? Or did you feel like you did actually do really well making friends with people?
I think I made a lot of friends there. I don't think I was only wearing white in Mysore. I'm pretty sure I wore other colors there too.
I don't believe you. But that's interesting. So I think I all in my own head, but I feel like a lot of people have this in their head that you had taken a vow, that you had a kind of religious background that you were bringing to the Gokulam. No.
I mean,
that's just a made-up story.
It's a made-up story, but I feel like it's a common made-up story. I feel like it's a transpersonal.
Maybe it's also because her name is Faith.
Yeah, people maybe it's my name.
Faith, the Catholic piece. Like maybe she's an Osho devotee. Like you wonder, like you have like you have these thoughts. Yeah, but I feel like a lot of people had these thoughts.
I was unaware.
You were unaware of that. So, okay, good.
I want to ask you about something. So I remember when we were all there in 2010 for Sharath's teacher training, not teacher training.
Yeah.
And I remember you leaving that training feeling very disenchanted.
Is that right? A lot of people did, actually. I think half the people there left unhappy. Yeah. Jeff, for example.
Yeah, that was a hard training because I think we were all grieving the loss of Sharath Jois. And I think that was all there was.
Yeah. And I think Sharath too, he was kind of not really into it.
Yeah.
Much.
No. He wasn't into us, wasn't into it. Like he was sort of seemed like up on stage, you could see him looking at us as like, you're Guruji's students, you're not my students.
And I remember something that meant a lot to me that trip is that's when he started giving out the authorization level 2 to the students who were doing second series. And I remember him saying to me, because we used to have to renew the authorization every 18 months. And
Yeah,
I
that's
remember him giving it to me and saying, this is good for life. You don't ever have to come back. And like that actually meant a lot to me, because I did come back, because then it was like I chose to be Sharath's student. I wasn't going back out of obligation. And I love that he was like willing to kind of let all of us that were Pattabhi Jois's students go if we needed to go.
Yeah, I remember him saying that actually also. It was like a very touching moment when he kind of like had a conference, I think. Maybe, I don't know, it was near the end. And had also said that to everyone, like you're, Guruji's students, and if you want to come back, you can, but some of you, I know I'll never see you again. And this is, your certificate for life. You don't need to come back and renew if you don't want to. And it was like a very sort of, it felt like a very final sort of goodbye at that point.
Yeah.
I think this might be where it came from, is that there's a story about Eddie Stern, David Life, and Sharon Gannon arriving in Mysore on Eddie's first trip. Have you heard this story?
No, I don't think
Faith?
so.
So they arrive on his. It might be in Eddie and Guy's Guruji book, and Peter Sanson maybe told this. It was his chapter, and Eddie and Sharon and David had all shown up, and they were all wearing white, and they only wore white, and they had also taken a vow of silence. And it had really kind of like Peter was just, Peter, he was just hanging out. He's just like happy to meet people, talking to people, and like Eddie wouldn't talk to him because he's like wearing white and in a vow of silence. And I think maybe I had that kind of story in my head. Is like I think Faith is like a vow.
You
going on.
transpose that story onto Faith.
Yeah, white. I think maybe you were thinking of them. Yeah.
But you had already opened your shala, because you told me you opened your shala in 2007, and that's in DC.
Yes.
Which is huge. I mean, your shala's almost been open for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
In the same spot too for all that time.
Wow. So after you left that training, then you were just there teaching in DC.
Yeah. And then actually, I went back to Mysore the next year and really became Sharath's student.
Yeah.
And I had always been. They had always both taught me when Pattabhi Jois was alive. But I think just that training was just a hard one, because there was this huge absence in Mysore. And I imagine, it's similar for the students going back to Mysore now. You really feel the absence of your teacher.
Yeah.
It's
I've been saying this to people that especially after I understand now how a lot of the senior teachers felt about Pattabhi Jois passing. At the time, we were like tweeners, like, we're all in the same generation. Like, we're with Pattabhi Jois. We went there because of Ashtanga Yoga, because of him. And then we discover he has a grandson. We didn't go there because of the grandson.
Yeah.
And so okay, well, the grandson is a bit more hands-on. And so we learn that. We learn that we get our postures from him. We'll get our paperwork done with him. And the adjustments come from him. And then, Pattabhi Jois is like this benevolent figure for some, this benevolent figure wandering around. And then he's died. And I don't want to press you on this, because I'm sure it was a very kind of heavy emotional experience for you. But you were there. And so he's died. And
when Sharath died.
When Sharath passed, yeah. And I've been liking it to like say you went to the University of Ohio and you suddenly found out that the city was gone, the university was gone, all your teachers are gone, and people said, "Well, are you ever going to go back?" It was like, it blew up. Like, there's nothing there. And so it's like a question that I so maybe it's a question, but it's also a feeling that I have. It's like, well, yeah,
that's how you're feeling.
It's gone. Like, what is there now? Like, why would you go there?
But how are you feeling about what happened?
About what happened or about going?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Sharath
both those things.
dying,
Yeah.
Mysore going back, all of those
Yeah. I mean,
possibilities.
I think I feel a little bit lost still.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I'll never go back, but I don't have plans to go back this year.
Mm-hmm.
Saraswati was also my teacher because when I started, Saraswati, Sharath, and Pattabhi Jois all started
Right.
together. So I have thought about going back to see her.
Yeah.
And, I like the idea of Sharath's school continuing on. I don't know how and what's the right way to
Mm-hmm.
do that, but I do feel like he built that school. His energy is on that space, and there's a benefit to that. But personally, I'm not ready to go back and
Yeah.
practice in the space
I think it
without
would,
him.
I think it would make a nice place to like store classic cars. You know, like there's like purpose for that room. You know, I could see that.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if there's any other purpose.
What was it like being in, because you were there in North Carolina when he passed away? What was it like being in that environment for that training?
In Charlottesville.
Charlottesville, yeah.
Yeah. I had just spent 2 weeks with him in Miami before that, and then
Mhm.
uh,
Florida.
followed by Charlottesville. And it was the happiest I've ever seen Sharath. Those 2 weeks
Nice.
in Miami and then the 2 days before he passed in Charlottesville, he was just so happy, and it was beautiful to see. And he was doing things that we weren't used to. He was complimenting us, and it was just a great energy in the room. And we
Nice.
Wow.
did pranayama at that training. And I remember I had learned pranayama with him twice because I did the teacher training with him in 2010 with you, and then I went back for another one like a few years later. He did another
Mhm.
one, and both of those
Yeah.
times we did pranayama, and I would just felt like he was yelling at me to hold my breath, and I couldn't do it, and it was so frustrating. And then in Charlottesville, it was just like we were all in such a high state that I was actually like, oh, wow, I can do this pranayama for the first time. I was actually able to hold it for his counts. And
Oh wow.
yeah. And the thing that also that I loved about those two trips is he just wanted to be around his students.
Amazing.
Like
Hmm.
in the afternoons, he always wanted to go shopping. And I thought it was so funny because he wanted to go shopping with an entourage of 30 of his
Yeah.
students with him, you know?
Yeah.
And he even plans stuff with the whole workshop in Miami. Like he wanted to go on a walk with everyone was invited. There's probably 200 people there. So he wanted to go on this beach walk with 200 people. And he just there was so much joy. And it was really nice to see because I saw him go through a lot, losing
Yeah.
Guruji. And,
Mhm.
over the years, I hadn't really seen joy like that from him. That
Yeah.
was
Wow.
really
Wow.
That's interesting.
It's beautiful.
Well, because I mean, we saw the same thing. You know, we saw how ground down he was by the experience of being in Gokulam, teaching 500 people, and doing it from 4 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, and not sleeping, going to bed at 9, getting up at 1, taking a nap. Like it's not enough rest, and you could see it in his face and his eyes. And I'm trying to see if I could feel that, because we hosted him at Stanford, and then in Las Vegas we did a couple of trips, and like I'm not sure I could ever say, like, I would ever have said, oh, look, like Sharath has joy, and it's an amazing thing to hear from you. But we did a lot of the same things. We would do afternoon shopping trips. We'd go on amusement park rides. We do all those things. But I feel like I only ever saw kind of him trying to like reserve energy,
Yeah.
which is very different from joy.
Yeah. I didn't feel that in Miami or in Charlottesville.
Oh.
That's amazing. And what was your impression like that day? We've heard like a lot of people talk about sort of, that he had cried when Shraddha left and he was like quite emotional and expressing emotion. What was your impression of him that day?
Yeah, I mean, none of us really knew what to make of that, where, he went to take Shraddha to the airport and had a huge emotional reaction. And I almost wonder if on, some level he knew that he wasn't going to see her again in
Yeah.
this realm,
Yeah.
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 So that was, none of us really knew what to make of that, or, even some of the things he was saying to us, as his teachers there, we
Yeah.
were a little confused.
Yeah. What was he saying? Can you think of anything?
Just mostly telling us things like, oh, he said, I watch you guys when you're assisting me. I see what you're doing. And, he's like, you do what I taught you, which is good. And you also do your own thing, which is good. And stuff like that, where it's just not what
Yeah.
we're used to hearing from Sharath, because he was always
Yeah.
very loving, but in a very strict way.
Mm-hmm.
And he just was saying things about how he really he was there with the active series, and that I'm still confused about, but he was saying how he created it for his teachers and he wanted us to have something to reach more people. And it was just a lot of outpouring of emotion that
Hmm.
Well, that's
Yeah.
we
nice
weren't.
to hear. You felt like you heard that he had an emotional reaction to the book's publication. Like this meant something to him.
Yeah.
Huh. I have a friend who felt that maybe Sharath hadn't really seen the book before.
It was hard to say too, because we actually never learned the active series at the training, and
Mm-hmm.
we had 2 days of it before he passed, and it kind of became this joke, like, are we going to do the active series? Like it wasn't even important enough for us to do it. He would answer questions about it, but we were spending the time doing lead primary, doing pranayama, and even
Mm-hmm.
the questions would just evolve into regular teaching questions. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a mysterious guy. So
Yeah.
So, in this journey over all of these years of you having your studio in DC and teaching Ashtanga Yoga and holding this space, you've also been kind of on another personal journey and becoming a hospital
chaplain.
chaplain
Yes.
See, now this is what I'm talking about. Like you being a chaplain, wearing white,
with the
and
name Faith.
with the name Faith. Now I'm starting to feel like I did miss out on some kind of religious experience that you've been having.
Yes.
How did this come about? How did you start on this path?
Uh,
It's incredible.
so I think it was 2016. I just started. This studio was doing pretty well, and just it kind of got to the point where it was running itself. I just had to show up to teach, and I felt like I could do
Wow.
more, and I wanted to give back. And I said a genuine prayer about, how can I do more? I asked God to use me. And then everything just sort of fell into place for me to go back to school. And I went back to school for 4 years. And then
Which school?
Catholic University, John Paul II Institute. It's here in DC. And so I was
Wow.
still teaching, but I was going to school
Wow.
at the
So that's
same
the
time.
God that you prayed to.
Mhm.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what was the degree in? Is it a chaplain degree? Is that what?
It's a master's in theology. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's amazing.
And then while I was in school, I did an internship at the hospital where I was started training to become a chaplain. And that internship was in 2020, like right when the pandemic started.
Wow.
That may be the most incredible thing I've ever heard. Wow. We talk to a lot of people on this show, and almost universally, all of them They've had there's some people who had some really loving parents. It's true. Some really loving parents, some people who've really been there, but almost all of them are rejecting their culture and going towards a new way of identifying the mystic experience for themselves and trying to integrate that. And either Buddhism, Hinduism, or spinal energetics
It's not a religion.
is the platform or the method in which they're going to understand what's been happening to them through the practice of yoga. But going back to divinity school, and as an Italian, I'm just going to take a wild guess that you were raised Catholic. Is like that's profoundly unusual, but also amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that the yoga opened me up spiritually and brought me deeper into my religion.
Into your religion.
Yeah.
And not into Hinduism.
No, and actually Sharath always encouraged me to kind of pursue Catholicism, because he would always talk about do japa, and he would say to me, do the rosary, things.
He would say that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In what context can you place that conversation?
Oh, that I don't remember.
So is it one-on-one? Is it in a group? And you call, or like, do japa everybody, or like Faith, do the rosary? Like, I can't imagine that in conference.
No, I don't think it was specific to me. It was in conference. He was talking about, it was like, do japa, and he said, or you can do the rosary. And I was sitting right there in front of him.
I heard him say that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because that's where the rosary
wasn't a one-on-one conversation. And he had told me, we had had conversations about it before. He told me that he loved Jesus. He used to watch Jesus cartoons when he was a kid. And they're so open in Mysore to Christianity and Catholicism. They are so open to, any religion there.
Yeah.
And would encourage it. And there's a beautiful cathedral there, St. Philomena's Cathedral. I don't know if you guys have ever been. But I had some very powerful experiences there too. And that really helped bring me back to my faith too.
Wow.
I've seen a number of rooms where people would stack their the avatars that they follow, like say they're Vaishnavites, and say they follow Krishna, and they put their little avatars of Krishna there, and then on the end, I've seen this in Mysore, they would put a little picture of Jesus, who they see as another avatar of Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's actually a big Christian community there. Like my rickshaw driver, I used to always be in the Jesus rickshaw. It said, praise the Lord, really big on it.
I know that one, yeah.
Was there like a particular experience that you had that was sort of a transformative experience where you really like received this answer to your prayer, or you just knew like this is my path where I need to go next?
It wasn't one transformative experience, but it was just that all the pieces fell into place. And like I didn't even know that, I said once I got this idea that I was supposed to be a hospital chaplain, I didn't even really know what a hospital chaplain was or did. I always thought you had to be a priest or a nun to do it. And so then I met somebody who was, a Catholic laywoman that did it. And she told me about it, and I was like, oh, that, does sound like something I could do. And then I didn't know where to go to school. And I found out about my school that I didn't know existed before. And just everything fell into place. I feel like when you're on the right path, like the next steps just show up. And, and then getting my internship. And then eventually I got a job at that hospital. And then it led me to the hospital where I was now. And everyone was so confused when I went back to school. And they were like, are you going to close the studio? Or are you going to still teach? And I kept saying, no, I'm just going to do both. And they were like, how are you going to do that with the hours? And I have the perfect job now where I start at 10 a.m., like 3 days a week. I work 10 to 4, so I can still teach Mysore in the morning. It gives me enough time to do my own practice. Like it all really felt like I was led there. And and
that's amazing.
You don't strike me as someone who maybe also has like a bunch of kids.
No kids.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be rude or in any way, but like that sometimes gets in the way of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
But what does a hospital chaplain do? Like what, because I would think that like maybe you have to be like ordained or have some kind of, I don't know.
Are you a lay chaplain?
So I'm an interfaith chaplain. So for certain things like Catholic sacraments, I do need to call in a priest. You have to be an ordained priest to do that. So, but the everyday stuff in the hospital where it's just, meeting with the families, talking to someone who's just got a terminal diagnosis or, sitting with someone at the end of life, that kind of thing, like the everyday stuff, I'm able to do without being ordained. And, and there's so many people that I deal with that are spiritual and not religious, or they are atheists, have no religion. And so you deal with a broad group of people. And
yeah, what's that like? Because I'm assuming they elect to come to you. It's not like a force thing. So if someone's atheist and maybe they get diagnosed with a terminal illness or something and they elect to come to you, what?
I think faith comes to them. I think they're probably in bed, don't you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, however it happens, but they're like asking for you. They're putting their hand up and saying, "Okay, I'm atheist or agnostic and I want to talk to you." How does that conversation go? Or like what are people really struggling?
yeah.
I mean, obviously they're struggling with death, but
yeah, so I mean those conversations go, it varies. You never know what you're going to get. I mean, sometimes they talk about their fears, they just need a sounding board. Sometimes we try to find, what did make life meaningful for them. And we always seem to come back to relationships at the end of life. That's probably one of the key things is, what relationships were important to them. Things like that.
Yeah.
So did you think that when you had a calling, and that's what it sounds like, a calling to be a hospital chaplain, did you understand at that point that you were going to be really working with end of life issues or end of life stories, people at their end of life most of the time?
I did and I didn't. I think I understood it on one level, but it's very different to actually do it.
Yeah.
I remember my first night that I worked my first shift, because when I was a chaplain intern, they just throw you out there. They're just like, here's a map of the hospital, like you're working tonight and just do your thing. And I remember being so nervous, and I was actually talking to one of my yoga students before I left, and he's like, have you ever seen a dead body before? And I was like, no, just at funerals, and he's like, oh, well, you're probably going to see one. I was like, I know. And then it was just like within 5 minutes of my shift, I was, in the room with someone who passed. And I was like, okay, this is what it is.
How does a chaplain do their shift? Like you drive to the hospital, you get out, and then what do you do?
And then it depends on the hospital. The first hospital I worked at, it was a trauma center. And so there was always things happening. So we would just answer the phone. We had a pager. Anytime somebody would come in on an ambulance or on the helicopter, anytime there was a code, like a code blue, somebody's, heart stops and they're resuscitating them, we would just automatically go to the scene and just try to see if there's any family around and kind of be there for them and, support whoever was there. And, if the trauma patient was alert and talking, we would just kind of stand back while the trauma team would do their thing. And then once things settled and the patient was alone and trying to process everything that happened, I would approach them and see if they wanted to talk.
Wow.
And you just introduce yourself and ask if they want to talk.
Yeah.
Wow. What's been like some of the greatest things that you've learned doing this work?
Oh, yeah. I don't.
That's a hard question. Doing it now, like 5 years.
She's in 2020.
Yeah, I've been doing
full
it
on
for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the greatest thing I've learned. I've learned so much about, other religions where people, will tell me like, they're not of my tradition. I say, well, I don't, teach me, and they'll tell me about their tradition. I try to accompany people in whatever is meaningful to them. And so I've learned a lot about different faiths and how they
Cool.
are at the end of life, things like that. And yeah. And it's
It
just,
sounds. Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, that's okay. You go ahead.
Well, it sounds like end of life. Like if they're calling you every time there's a code blue, it sounds like that's the job. Is you're there every time someone's near death.
Yeah.
All shift.
I'm no longer at a trauma center anymore. Well, we're level 2 trauma center of the hospital right
Uh-huh.
now. So it's not quite as intense. There I get
Yeah.
a list of all the palliative care patients, anybody with a hospice consult. So there's more talking. And a lot of times you're actually not there for the patient, you're there for the family because the patient's unconscious or they're on a respirator.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, talking to the family and,
Mm-hmm.
and it's especially beneficial, I think, when it's just, there's one family member. It's just, a wife and her husband's dying, something like that, where, they really do need someone to talk to.
Yeah, they don't have like a support system there to help them through.
Yeah.
Can I ask, and this is like a low-key flattery, you don't look a day older than the day I met you 20 years ago. You look actually younger. I'm like fully gray now. You look like you're like about 26. Do you ever feel like you encounter ageism in the work that you do? You come up to a family and they look and they see a young girl approaching them as the chaplain. Do you ever feel like you encounter resistance in that regard?
Maybe I mean, some people are actually excited, especially like, older women love it. Like the, 70-year-old Catholic lady is like, oh, it's so nice to see a young woman doing this, um,
Yeah.
Wow.
and they're actually excited because they're used to seeing men and they're used
Mm-hmm.
to seeing older men. So they're,
Yeah.
you know, if I'm getting it, I'm also getting positives from it too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
honestly, most people, when you're in that state of, the grief starts before the person even dies. And when you're in that state of grief, it's like you're not thinking about these things. It's just like, this is, a person who, is here trying to support me. And I don't know. I mean, some people turn me away, definitely. And
Oh,
in a
really?
way, I think it's empowering for them because it's just like there's so much you can't control when these things are happening. But you can say, no, I don't want to talk to the chaplain, and I'll leave. And I feel good
Mm-hmm.
about it because it's something that they could control in that moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Did you find when Sharath passed and you were with this group of students that
Oh.
the skills and the experience that you had facilitating people's grief and mourning really, you were drawing on them a lot to support the other practitioners?
Yeah, I mean, it's very different when you're that closely involved because it's never been someone I know. And it
Yeah.
felt very much like being in the hospital because, like I said earlier, I was present for all the code blues in the hospital. And basically, Sharath was a code blue that, we
Yeah.
got there. And when we went on the hike and I was ahead of him. So I got up to the top of the mountain just assuming he was behind me and coming. There was
Mm-hmm.
probably, I don't know, maybe 50 of us on the hike. My memory's
Yeah.
starting to slip about that day. And I got up to the top of the mountain and I had this weird moment where I felt like I connected with his spirit. And I didn't know what was going on there, but I looked out at the top of the mountain. It was this beautiful view. And I just looked down and I had this thought, and I'm not suicidal. I've not been suicidal at that time either. And I looked down and I was like, what if I just ended it all? What if I just jumped? And then I had this thought, I can't. There's all these people here. There's all these yoga students here. I can't do it. And then I was just like, what a weird thought, And I just kind of like started to go back down the mountain. I was like, why am I thinking these things? And then at that, shortly after that, we got the phone call that we needed to go down because Sharath
Yeah.
had gone into cardiac arrest. So we went down the mountain and I did basically exactly what I do in the hospital, where I just stood back and was, there with, some of the students, the people that love Sharath. Well, the students, and there were 2 passerbys too that helped with the CPR, and they were taking turns doing CPR. And I was kind of, people were asking me what's going on. I was kind of explaining what's happening. And it was really hard to watch because I knew how long they had been doing CPR on him.
Yeah.
There wasn't, I could feel his spirit was still with us. He hadn't crossed yet, but there's no chance of a meaningful recovery when, you had, well, maybe not no chance, but there's not much chance when they've been doing it that long.
I've talked to a number of paramedics about this situation, not least Harmony's ex-husband, Jeff, and I've talked to a number of people who were there on the scene who had spoken to the paramedics, and the consensus has been that as soon as he had gone into the, I forget the word for this, this position, he was probably...
Like when he fell over.
When he fell over, he raised his hands, which is a common sign of a massive heart attack. And I forget the word that Jeff told me. But within like 3 to 5 minutes, he would have been dead. And a lot of the work at that point is performative, because everyone kind of understands. When the paramedics arrived, it was 30 minutes later. They did the work because everyone expects them to do the work, but everyone kind of understands what the situation is.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that, and I also feel that I can feel when the spirit crosses because I've been around so many people. And I will say that I didn't feel him cross until after the paramedics got there.
Oh,
So
I see.
That's my personal belief, but yeah, no, it's true.
It's interesting too, though. And maybe like from your experience, you're very, and obviously just who you are, your person, your gifts are very sensitive to the spirit. And even, your recollection of this thought, like kind of receiving almost psychically, potentially the thoughts going through his mind at that moment or at a moment close to death. And then sensing nobody exactly knows what happens as we die. And so having his spirit kind of be amongst the students and still kind of in that space, even if it wasn't totally connected to the body, potentially you're quite sensitive to being in those spaces so much. What are your thoughts about that? Like what's your experience with spirits and leaving the body and going into these other realms or going into another, plane of existence?
Yeah. No, I've been in the room with a lot of spirits as they cross, and usually I feel this really just beautiful sense of peace. I went through a whole period where I no longer believed there was a hell, because I just felt every time I would feel someone cross, I just felt this beautiful peace. Like I could feel it in my whole body. It was just amazing and impossible to describe. And I had been in the room with, gang members that had shot someone and got shot themselves, and as they crossed, and I would still feel this beautiful peace. And so I went through a long period of time where I thought, we come from God, we just go back to God. There's no hell. Hell must be a state here on earth. And then I had a patient a few years ago who was on a ventilator. He was in a medically induced coma. And then he came back and described hell to me and told me that was where he'd been. And so, I just feel like there's so much mystery. So I don't know. I don't know what I believe, but everyone that I've been with when they've crossed, I felt a true peace.
Wow. Well, maybe he was in hell and hell sent him back, because it was like...
I did not know what to make of that, but yeah.
Wow, that must be interesting to hear, because of course some people would kind of leave their bodies and potentially come back in. You must have met a few people that have had that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of similarities too. And that's why I almost wonder if, Sharath had some sense that this was happening, because, so many of my patients tell me that they start seeing their deceased loved ones before they cross.
Yeah.
And, it's just like common knowledge. And I hear it all the time. I see most common is like the mom or the grandma is, the first one to come get them. So, and Sharath had a beautiful relationship with his grandma. He always talked about her. So I like to think she was the first one to come for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much?
Wow. That's emotional thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain, you must feel quite emotional a lot of the time doing your work, no?
I do, but I've also learned not to take it on, where I can kind of be present for it and not take it on. And a lot of that actually the learning came from being in the Mysore room. When I first started teaching Mysore, I would just kind of pick up everybody's stuff. I was touching everybody. I would go home exhausted and just feel whatever they were processing, going through. And I had all these ideas like, oh, I must be an empath. I can't do this job because I'm just going to take on everybody's stuff. And one of my students was an energy healer, and she started working with me and, taught me kind of techniques that I could use to protect myself, and so that I wasn't going to pick up this energy from everybody else. And it's at the point now where I don't even have to use the techniques anymore. I just kind of get into service mode and it doesn't affect me. But I really credit her for teaching me that, because it got me so that I could teach Mysore without being tired, without feeling everybody's stuff. And then it just allowed me to be able to take that into the hospital and to be able to go into these situations. And most of the time, there's always someone that will affect you, but most of the time I can go in there and not get drained and not take it on or take it home. But
what were those techniques that she taught you? I'm so curious.
Yeah, so they were actually really simple, but were really effective. So, one of them was to say a prayer to shield myself. And then she also had me visualizing, like I would visualize myself and protected by like a bubble of white light or golden light. And and they were really simple.
Yeah.
I would imagine people would feel that too when you walk in the room.
Yeah, and she had me, and there was visualizations I could do afterwards if I felt like I did pick something up, or, and I would ask the angels to come in and to take it from me. And, I would visualize it actually like leaving my body. And
yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, and I don't actually consciously do the techniques anymore, occasionally, but mostly.
Maybe you're imbued with them.
I think so.
Yeah. What about when Sharath passed? Because it was very emotional for you, I'm sure. I mean, he was your teacher for, 20
years.
Yeah, 23 years. And so you're in a role where you're supporting others, but also kind of processing and grieving yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it was actually such a good place for me to be when it happened, because I had taken off the whole week of work to be there. I got to stay in Charlottesville. I was sharing an apartment with Krista Shirley. So, I had a friend
Yes, she mentioned that, yeah.
A friend there with me, it would have been just so hard to like go home alone, or even, my family, my friends back home, nobody understands, it's just your yoga teacher. They don't understand the impact that he had on my life and how much this grief would impact me. And so that was really helpful. And just being around so much love, there was 100 students that, loved Sharath deeply, and everybody was just supportive of each other. And it was a really beautiful time. And even people who didn't really like each other that much were just like, at that moment, they loved each other, and that was, the love was bigger than any kind of conflict they had. And it was a good place for me to be in the initial shock of it.
I want to ask you this question, and we can cut this out if no one's enjoying this line of questioning. Obviously, Harmony and I, we heard almost immediately. And we also understood that there was a directive to not tell anybody. Like as soon as I heard, I texted Andrew, and Andrew told me not to tell anybody. I was like, bro, everybody knows, okay? It's like, yeah, but don't tell anybody. It's like, I'm getting texts from rickshaw drivers of Sharath's body.
Yeah.
It's like, everybody knows, dude. And it's like, no, just don't tell anybody. It's like, okay. So then we spent like that evening, like we must have spoken to like, I don't know, 200 people each.
No.
100 people each.
No.
By text.
No.
We spoke to
I spoke to like 10 people.
We texted every single person we knew. And
I don't know what you were doing, but I spoke to like 10 people.
You spoke to at least 10 people, and then we texted so many other people.
No.
Yes, we did. And I guess I don't know if this line of questioning is going anywhere, but like I'm wondering about the circle. Like there's a circle of people who are there, and then there's an awareness that there's like this mass of thousands of people outside of the circle who aren't there, who are all talking about this. And I'm wondering about your state of mind and or awareness of that dynamic.
Yeah. So, I mean, they told us try to keep this quiet because we want to let the family decide how they want to announce it, which is valid to me. And I was willing to respect that. But the texts were flooding in. I mean, everyone knew immediately, it seemed like. And and some of them, close friends, students, when they would text me and say, is it true? I would respond with, yes, it's true, but we've been asked not to talk about it out of respect for the family until the family makes an announcement, something like that. I don't remember exactly what I said.
Yeah.
But that's how I handled that. And I don't know, that wider circle, actually, I felt a lot of support because, my students and were reaching out to me and, people I'd known in Mysore and, everybody. And I actually think it was like touching that people cared so much. And yeah,
I found it a really, it was a really touching time because there was people that, we were speaking to on the phone who we hadn't talked to
forever
in a long time, unless they were on our podcast for some reason.
Yeah.
Like Alaya, for example.
Yeah,
Let's reach out to Alaya and talk
or
to him.
Alex Medine or different people that, called or we called them. And it was kind of like a beautiful sort of, just like connection to, people that you really love that maybe you just don't talk to anymore. And it's interesting how, I don't know, death, I think, does that a little bit, can bring people together. Maybe it can also tear people apart. But yeah, it felt like Sharath's kind of energy was really and it's beautiful to hear you speak of how joyful he was and loving and in that space before he passed, because it did feel very like a unified field at that time for us outside of that circle as well, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My brother's best friend passed away. What day is it today? Monday. He passed away yesterday, and late Saturday night, Sunday morning, and my brother is grieving, and he's not going to seek support for this. And I'm wondering, like, what would you say to me? How I've tried to just be there for him and help him however I can. Do you have anything that you could say to someone like me who's trying to be helpful? Like, would you offer any counsel?
Yeah, exactly what you're doing, just trying to be there for them. Because I think so many people run away because they don't know what to say or they don't know what to do. And a lot of times you don't need to do anything or say anything. And, you know, part of in my work as a chaplain, like there's times when I go in there and the situation is so horrible, there's nothing I can say, but I'll just sit with somebody while they cry, you know, and not say anything. And a lot of times, you know, you can't, you know, people like a nurse will call me and they'll say, oh, I want you to come and cheer my patient up. And, you know, the patient just lost their child. Like, I'm not going to be able to cheer them up. But, you know, so you can't always bring someone out of the dark, but you can sit in the dark with them. And that means a lot, you know, and just being there with your brother so that, hey, you know, however you handle this, but you're not alone. I'm here going through it with you.
That reminds me of one of my favorite Zen koans, actually. There's a nun walking in the snow, and she encounters a monk who's fallen in the snow and can't get out of it. So she gets in the snow with him.
Yeah, exactly. Get in the snow with them.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's beautiful. So
I'm curious, like how this path works for you now. Like what is your 10-year plan? Like, you're just become a saint? And so what do you do with that? Do you go on Instagram with that? What do you do with becoming a saint?
My 10-year plan, I don't know. I mean, I want to continue to do the hospital work, and I want to continue teaching my students at my shala in DC. I think one thing about Sharath's passing is it has kind of opened things up for a lot of us that have been quietly teaching, that feel like maybe we need to start to reach more people. So, you know, things like this, being on this podcast, I probably would have said no to this a few years ago. But yeah, lately I have been feeling like maybe I do need to start reaching more people. And a friend of mine just built a retreat center in southern Italy, and I went to go visit it. And teaching retreats are something I had never thought about before. And again, I have this pull, like maybe I need to teach more people, and you know, maybe that's something I should start doing. And so things like that, I think I'm opening myself up to more yoga, but I'm going to continue doing my work in the hospital. I like being part-time in the hospital. I like that I go in one day and then I don't have to go in the next day, because it can be very demanding work, and I've seen other chaplains burn out. So I want to continue probably to do that part-time.
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful. I love it.
And on top of that, like it's really interesting. And I feel like I feel like I'm probing, and I don't want to be, you know, make you uncomfortable, but this is already such lonely work, being a Mysore teacher and running a program and having the lifestyle that goes with that, where like 6 p.m. is like kind of really got to shut things down. And, you know, you've got to get your meal in about 2 p.m. and then you're up at 2. And like, there's not a lot of room there. We don't make a lot of room there for other people. And so often, like, you just marry somebody else who's an Ashtanga yogi because they get it. And then, but it's been amazing to see how many of us have gone into energy work or into other kinds of lines of work that support this. It seems like you're like going into becoming a hospital chaplain is like, again, like another kind of step towards
like solitary.
Like what?
Being solitary?
I would say that, like, you know, a nun, like they marry their Lord and Savior. That's what they do. They marry Jesus. He's
like, is there love in your life, Faith? That's the real question.
But I'm not a nun.
Right.
And I'm open to love. And I don't feel lonely. I feel like I have a really supportive community around me. I'm very close to my family who lives in DC. My mom is actually a yoga teacher and teaches at my studio with me, alongside me. Yeah,
Really?
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh,
And she never went to India, but she always went on all the tours with me. So she got to practice with Sharath Jois and Sharath many times here in
That's
the US.
awesome.
that's
You
amazing.
trained your mom.
You
Yeah.
trained your mom to be your apprentice. Normally you train your kid. You trained your mom.
Yeah. So my life feels very complete. And we have such a great community at my shala. And I know that people have mixed feelings. So should you be friends with your students? I really am. They're some of my best friends. And
I always have been
yeah.
friends with my students.
And so I have a great supportive community there.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
I've never heard about you like kind of, dating Barry or Silver, or dating John Scott. Like I've never heard things about you. Like, oh yeah, Faith is with your ex-husband.
She's got the clean energy because
She's I've heard that
reflected in the
I
white.
heard that Faith was dating your ex-husband Jeff. Like I
No.
don't hear those things.
No.
I have one more
You're
curious
gonna walk
question.
right over that?
Yeah.
You're gonna walk right over that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harmony.
Explored that.
You're welcome.
We
You're
could have explored
welcome.
that more. That's
But
interesting.
what do you think about Ashtanga yoga is such a physical practice, and the work that you're doing really is like kind of shepherding the spirit across worlds, it sounds like, and tending to the spirits that are left here and the emotional body and all these other human aspects. How do you feel like your own journey through yoga you started with figure skating, which is like super physical, and then moved to yoga and Ashtanga yoga, which is pretty physical, but there's definitely this mind, body, energy connection going on. And now you're in this work that's very much more spiritual, emotional, dealing with these other aspects. And so I guess my question is how do you feel like in your own journey, maybe the practice prepared you for it, or how, and also how has your practice changed, or your relationship to your practice changed?
Yeah. I think I am able to process all the emotion through the physical, and my practice has changed over the years. When I first went back to school and started doing this work, I had to back off my practice. So I stopped doing third. So for years, I just did first and second. And I just actually, the last two tours that Sharath did in Miami, I never had a conversation with him about not doing third anymore. I just showed up and just did second. And then, he asked me, what was your last pose? And I said, oh, I'm only doing second. And he just very patiently just started reteaching me third and just giving it back to me one pose at a time. So I've been trying to kind of integrate some third series in my practice again. And I think maybe, that was kind of a message to me that I do need to, be more in the physical because the third is very physical. And with second, I'm so efficient at it now that I feel like it's not as physical for me anymore. So I've been trying to do that to get more grounded in the physical realm.
I'm finding Maruchyasana C quite difficult.
Yeah.
It's really challenging.
Yeah, primary, I think, is more physical. For so many years, I just did second, and that it kind of I can get into almost another realm when I do it. I feel like I just kind of space out and then it's over and I've done the whole series. And whereas I have to be much more present when I'm doing, primary or advanced.
It was always my opinion that every woman should be stopped at Karandavasana for 10 years. That's where I thought. I was like, you ex-ballet dancers seem to be having a really nice time in the room. Let's stop you at Karandavasana.
Well, Sharath didn't hold me at Karandavasana for 10 years, but he did teach me second very slowly I learned the whole thing over 10 years. Like, I never had another teacher. So I would, get some poses from him, go home, work on them, come back.
Wow.
It was a 10-year process for me to get through the whole thing.
We snarfed them on our first trip. We got all second series on our first trip.
No.
And then I got like 5 postures over 15 years of third. So that's what I got. So, until like my last day where I was given 15 postures, never saw them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy world. Well, thank you so much for coming on this and sharing your wisdom and your experience.
I would love to know more about your love life and or this whole immune disorder thing. Maybe for the next time you can share more about that.
Okay, yeah, that's another podcast.
Yeah. And tell everyone where, if people want to come to DC and practice with you and find you there, how do they find your shala, your secret shala?
So it's not so secret. So Woodley Park Yoga is the name of my yoga studio, and it is in Northwest DC. And I would love for any of our listeners to join us.
We're going to be in DC.
Oh, yeah, next year. We're
going to be in DC May 18th. Can you be there next year?
Yeah, I'll put it on the calendar. What are you guys doing in DC?
We are going to be attending and facilitating a urology conference in DC. And so we set up a booth. It's my last name, Case Recruiters. And we recruit urologists to hospitals, very much like your own, and make sure that everyone's PP is working. And that's our job. That's what Harmony's great at it.
And their kidneys.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Harmony is maybe the best hire as a contractor that we've ever had in our companies. We have a family company. Our family's history.
They pay me nothing.
You get a free trip out of it. And we would love to see you, Faith, when we're there. Maybe we can take you out to eat.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Maybe try and do some yoga in the morning. That's tough.
Yeah, come do yoga with us.
It starts very early.
We should try that.
Maybe we'll have to take an extra day to do yoga.
Yeah. I think we should give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was so nice to connect with you again.
Thanks.
I'm so grateful for all of the friends and teachers who have walked with us on this path, this practice, this community, and even the unseen presence of the spirits continue to guide us. And today, I just want to honor Sharath's life and legacy and invite you to join me inside the Finding Harmony community. Each month, you'll find that we gather together for full and new moon meditations and take sacred moments to just pause, to remember, to reconnect, to chat with each other, and go deeper into the philosophy and the spirituality that is within us all. So this is a sacred space, not just being here with us listening to the podcast, but coming into the community and having conversations. It's a space where you can reflect, where you can renew your spirit, and I would love to welcome you there. You'll find the link in the show notes. And until next time, may your practice be an anchor, and may your heart be a place of remembrance, and your spirit, may it just open up to this mystical, mysterious experience of life. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.